The sky above the dry land turned dark without warning. At first, Armin thought it was just another storm coming. But something felt wrong. The clouds were not moving like normal clouds. They were too still, too sharp, almost like they were watching him. He stood alone in his empty field, holding a small piece of dry bread in his hand, his stomach hurting from hunger. For days, he had eaten almost nothing. And this small piece of food was all he had left. The wind started to blow slowly, but it was cold, colder than any wind he had ever felt before. Armin looked up again, his heart beating faster now. Then suddenly, a strange light cut through the dark sky. It moved fast like something falling, but it did not make any sound. Before he could understand anything, the light disappeared behind the hill near his farm. Silence returned, heavy and deep. Armin swallowed hard, fear slowly growing inside him. He knew that was not normal. And nothing good ever came from the unknown. For a moment, he thought about going back to his small broken house, locking the door, and forgetting what he saw. But something inside him pushed him forward. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was something else, something he could not explain. He slowly started walking toward the hill, his steps careful, his eyes searching every shadow. The ground felt strange under his feet, like it was still shaking from whatever had fallen. As he reached the top of the hill, he stopped. His breath caught in his throat. There was a small crash site. The ground burned black, smoke rising slowly into the air. In the middle of it, something small was moving. Armin narrowed his eyes, trying to see clearly. Then he heard it. A soft sound, like someone crying. His heart tightened. That was not the sound of a machine. That was a child without thinking. He moved closer, step by step, and then he saw her, a small figure, sitting on the ground, shaking. She was not human. Her skin had a faint glow. Her eyes were larger, filled with fear and pain. Her clothes were torn, and her body looked weak, like she had no strength left in her arms. She held something tightly, a small teddy bear, old and worn, but held like it was the most important thing in the universe. Armin froze, his mind racing. He had never seen anything like this before. This was not from his world. The girl slowly looked up at him, her eyes wide, her breathing uneven. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them was heavy with fear and confusion. Then, with shaking hands, she slowly stood up. She took a few weak steps toward him, almost falling. Armin did not move, but his grip on the bread tightened. The girl looked at the bread, her eyes locking onto it like it was life itself. Tears filled her eyes, rolling down her cheeks. She held out the teddy bear with both hands. Her voice was soft, broken, and full of pain. "Take this. Please, give me food. My brother is starving." Her words hit Armin like a heavy weight. He looked at the teddy bear, then at her weak face. His mind was filled with questions. But one thing was clear. She was desperate. Armin slowly raised the bread in his hand, staring at it. This was his last food. If he gave it away, he would have nothing. His stomach twisted in pain as if reminding him of his own hunger. The girl did not move. She just stood there, her hand still holding the teddy bear, waiting, hoping. Her small body trembled, like she might fall at any moment. The wind blew again, colder now, wrapping around them like a warning. Armin looked into her eyes. There was no lie there, only fear, only love for someone she was trying to save. His heart began to beat louder. One choice, just one choice. He could keep the food and survive another day, or he could give it away and maybe save a life. His fingers tightened around the bread. The girl's hands shook as she held out the teddy bear. Time felt slow, heavy, like the world itself was waiting. Armin took a small step forward, the girl's eyes filled with a tiny spark of hope, but his face was still unsure, still fighting inside. The dark sky above them remained silent, watching everything. And in that quiet moment, one decision was about to change everything. Because that night, one hungry human had to choose between himself and a starving alien child. The cold wind moved slowly across the burned ground, carrying the smell of smoke and something strange. Armin stood still, the piece of bread still in his hand, his eyes fixed on the small alien girl in front of him. For a few long seconds, neither of them spoke. The girl's arms were still stretched forward, holding the old teddy bear like it was her only hope. Her fingers were thin and shaking, her strength almost gone. Armin finally lowered his hand a little, but he did not give the bread yet. His eyes carefully studied her, trying to understand what she was. She was different, yes, but she did not look dangerous. She looked tired, weak, and afraid. Her glowing skin was dim, like a light that was slowly fading. Her large eyes were filled with tears, but also something else. Something deeper, love, not for herself, but for someone else. Armin swallowed slowly, his throat dry. Your brother, he said quietly, his voice rough from hunger and silence. Where is he? The girl quickly looked back toward the hill behind her, her breathing becoming faster. He is there, she said softly, her voice breaking. Armin followed her gaze and saw a small shadow near the broken part of the crash site, hidden behind a piece of black metal. At first, he thought it was just debris, but then he noticed a small movement. Something was there. The girl turned back to him, her eyes now full of fear. He cannot move. He is very weak, she said, almost whispering. Armin looked again at the bread in his hand. His stomach twisted painfully, reminding him that he had not eaten properly for days. He knew that if he gave this away, there would be nothing left for him, but still, his feet moved forward, slowly, carefully. Show me, he said, his voice quiet but steady. The girl nodded quickly, hope flashing across her face for the first time. She turned and began walking, but her steps were weak, unsteady, like she might fall at any moment. Armin followed her closely, watching every movement. Still unsure, but unable to turn back now, as they moved closer to the broken metal. The air felt heavier, colder. A faint sound reached his ears, soft breathing, uneven and slow. Then he saw him, a small alien boy, lying on the ground, his body still, his eyes half closed. He looked even weaker than the girl, his skin pale and flickering faintly, like a dying light. Armin's chest tightened at the sight. The girl quickly ran to him and dropped to her knees, holding his hand gently. I am here, she said softly, trying to comfort him. The boy did not respond. Only a faint breath escaped his lips. Armin stood there, silent, watching. This was real. This was not a trick, not a lie. They were both dying. The girl looked back at Armin, tears now falling freely. Please, she said, her voice shaking. He has not eaten for many days. She slowly lifted the teddy bear again, holding it toward him with both hands. You can take this. It is very special. Please just give us food. Armin looked at the teddy bear more carefully this time. It was old, its fur worn out, one eye slightly broken. But it was clean, protected, cared for. This was not just a toy. This meant something important. Why this? Armin asked quietly. Why give this? The girl hugged the teddy bear for a moment, her face pressed into it. Then she slowly pulled it away, her hands shaking even more now. My mother gave it to us, she said softly. Her voice became slower, filled with pain. She said, it will keep us safe. It will keep us together. Armin felt something move inside his chest. Something heavy. The girl looked at her brother again, her expression full of fear. If he dies, I will be alone, she whispered. The wind blew harder for a moment, making the broken metal around them creak softly. Armin closed his eyes for a second, trying to think. He was not a hero. He was just a hungry man trying to survive. But this was different. He opened his eyes again and looked at the boy, then at the girl. The silence around them felt louder now, pressing on him, forcing him to decide. The girl slowly lowered her hands, as if she was losing hope. Her shoulders dropped, her strength fading. But she did not cry loudly. She did not beg again. She just waited, quietly. That made it even harder. Armin looked down at the bread one more time. His last meal. His only chance to survive another day. Then he looked at the girl. Again, her eyes were no longer asking. They were simply hoping, and hope was something he understood too well. His grip on the bread tightened. His heart began to beat faster, louder. He took a slow breath. And then he stepped closer. The girl's eyes widened slightly, a small spark returning, but Armin's face was still serious, still unsure, because deep inside, the battle was not over yet, and the hardest choice was still in front of him. The wind grew quieter, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Armin stood beside the two alien children, the piece of bread still in his hand. It felt heavier now, like it was no longer just food, but a choice. A choice that could decide who lives and who suffers. He looked at the boy lying on the ground, his breathing slow and weak. Every breath sounded like it could be his last. Then Armin looked at the girl, still sitting beside her brother, holding his hand tightly. She was not crying loudly anymore. Her tears had slowed, but her eyes were full of fear. Not fear for herself, but for him. That made something inside Armin ache. He slowly turned away for a moment, unable to keep looking. His stomach twisted painfully again, reminding him of his own hunger. He had not eaten properly for days. His body was already weak, his legs heavy, his vision sometimes unclear. If he gave this food away, what would happen to him? Would he survive another night? Or would he fall just like that boy, silent and forgotten? Armin clenched his jaw, trying to push these thoughts away. "This is not my problem," he whispered to himself. "I don't even know what they are, but they are children." Another voice inside him replied quietly. He shook his head slightly, frustrated. Why was this so hard? Why now, when he had nothing left? He looked down at the bread again. Dry, small, simple, but right now it meant everything. Slowly his mind began to drift. Memories he tried to forget started to come back. A small house long ago, a voice calling his name, warm and gentle. His mother. She used to give him food even when she had nothing for herself. He remembered how she would smile and say, "You eat, I am not hungry." But he knew she was lying. He knew she was hungry too, and still she chose him. Armin closed his eyes tightly, his chest rising and falling slowly. "That was different," he muttered. "That was family." But when he opened his eyes again, he saw the alien girl holding her brother the same way, protecting him, choosing him, just like his mother once did. The thought hit him harder than anything else. Hunger was not just pain, it was fear. Fear of losing someone. Fear of being alone. The girl suddenly spoke again, her voice very soft now. If you don't want the bear, you can still take it." Armin looked at her, confused. She slowly placed the teddy bear on the ground between them. "I just want him to live," she said quietly. Her hands moved back to her brother, gently touching his face. "I don't need anything else." Armin felt something break inside him at those words. She was ready to lose the only thing she had left, not for herself, but for someone else. The silence returned, heavier than before. Armin looked at the bread again, then at the boy, then at the girl. His thoughts were no longer clear. They were fighting, pulling him in different directions. Survive, help them, walk away, stay. Each second felt longer than the last. The wind brushed past his face again, cold and empty. He slowly walked a few steps away from them, turning his back. The girl did not stop him. She did not call out, she just watched quietly. That silence hurt more than any cry. Armin stopped after a few steps, his body stiff. His hand tightened around the bread, so much it almost broke. "Why me?" he whispered under his breath. Out of all people, why did this choice come to him? He had nothing, no power, no extra food, no help, just one small piece of bread. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. Then slowly, very slowly, he turned back. The girl was still there, her eyes fixed on him, not begging, not crying, just waiting. That look. It was not pressure, it was trust. and that made everything harder. Armin walked back toward them. Each step heavy, he stopped in front of the girl, his face serious. The bread was still in his hand. The girl's eyes moved to it, a small spark of hope returning again. Armin looked down at the boy one more time. His breathing was weaker now, slower. There was no more time left. Armin's heart began to beat loudly. In his chest, this was it, the moment, the decision. His hand slowly started to move, rising slightly. The bread still held tightly between his fingers. The girl's breath stopped for a second, her eyes wide. The world around them felt completely silent. Now even the wind had stopped. Everything was waiting for what he would do next. And as his hand moved forward, his choice was finally about to be made. Armin's hand trembled as it moved forward. The small piece of bread still held tightly between his fingers. The alien girl watched him without blinking, her breath slow, her eyes filled with fragile hope. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped completely. Then finally, Armin opened his hand. The bread rested in his palm, offered quietly. The girl's eyes widened, this belief flashing across her face. She did not move at first, as if she thought it was a dream. You are giving it," she whispered softly. Armin did not answer. He simply nodded once, his face serious but calm. That was enough. The girl quickly reached forward with shaking hands and took the bread carefully, like it was something sacred. "Thank you. Thank you," she said again and again, her voice breaking with emotion. She turned immediately toward her brother, breaking the bread into small pieces. Her hands were still shaking, but now they moved with urgency instead of fear. "Eat. Please eat," she whispered to him, gently lifting his head. For a second, nothing happened. Then slowly, the boy moved. A weak breath, a small movement of his lips. The girl carefully placed a small piece of bread into his mouth. Armin stood quietly, watching everything. His stomach burned with hunger, but he said nothing. The boy swallowed with difficulty, but he swallowed. Then another small piece, and another. Each bite was slow, painful, but it was life. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Again, but this time they were different, not just fear, but relief. "He is eating. He is eating," she whispered softly, almost in disbelief. Armin turned his face slightly, looking away for a moment. A strange feeling filled his chest, something warm, but also heavy. He had nothing left now. No food, no safety, no plan, but still, something felt right. After a few moments, the girl turned back toward him, her eyes shining. She stood up slowly, still weak but stronger than before. Without saying anything, she walked toward him and held out the teddy bear again. "You must take it," she said gently. Armin looked at the toy, then at her, and shook his head. "No," he said quietly. The girl frowned slightly, confused. "But we agreed," she said softly. Armin sighed lightly, his voice calm but firm. "I did not help you for this." The girl looked down at the teddy bear, holding it closer for a moment. "But this is important," she said, her voice serious now. Armin noticed the change in her tone. It was not just a child speaking anymore. There was something deeper behind her words. "I know," he replied softly. "That is why you should keep it." The girl stayed silent for a moment, her grip tightening on the teddy bear. Then she slowly shook her head. "You don't understand," she said. Her voice was still soft, but now it carried weight. "This is not just a toy." Armin looked at her carefully, sensing something more. The wind moved gently around them again, carrying this strange, quiet tension. The girl stepped closer, lowering her voice. "My mother gave this to us before everything changed," she said. "She told us, never lose it." Armin crossed his arms, slightly, still unsure. "That does not mean you should give it away," he replied. The girl's eyes lifted to meet his. "She also said, when the time comes, give it to someone who chooses kindness." Armin froze slightly at those words. The meaning behind them sank slowly into his mind. The girl held the teddy bear out again, her hands steady this time. "You chose to help us, even when you had nothing," she said quietly. That means you are the one. Armin stared at the toy, then at her face. There was no fear there now. Only trust, and something else, belief. The boy behind her moved slightly, his breathing a little stronger now. Life was returning to him, slowly but surely. Armin looked at him, then back at the girl. You should keep it, he said again. But his voice was softer now, less certain. The girl shook her head once more. If we keep it, we may survive, she said. But if you take it, maybe we all survive. Armin frowned slightly, confused by her words. What does that mean? He asked. The girl hesitated for a moment, then stepped even closer. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. This bear is not normal. Armin's eyes narrowed slightly. The air around them suddenly felt heavier again. The wind slowed, the silence returned. Something was changing. Something he did not understand yet. The girl gently placed the teddy bear into his hands, this time. He did not stop her. You don't understand now, she said softly. But you will. Armin looked down at the teddy bear, his mind full of questions. Then suddenly, a faint sound echoed in the distance, low, mechanical, unnatural. Armin's head snapped up instantly. The girl's face changed again, fear returning to her eyes. They found us, she whispered, her voice trembling once more. Armin tightened his grip on the teddy bear, his heart beginning to race. What found you? He asked quickly. The girl stepped back toward her brother, her body tense. They are coming, she said, and this time there was no doubt in her voice, only fear and a warning. The sound came again, louder this time, a low humming noise that did not belong to the natural world. Armin lifted his head, his eyes searching the dark sky. The air felt tight, heavy, like something was pressing down on everything around them. What is that? He asked quickly, his voice tense. The alien girl moved closer to her brother, her small body shaking again. They are hunters, she whispered, fear clear in every word. They follow energy. They follow us. Armin's grip tightened around the teddy bear. Hunters. From your world? He asked, trying to understand. The girl nodded, her eyes fixed on the sky. They don't want us alive, she said softly. A cold feeling ran through Armin's chest. He had just given away his last food. And now danger was coming. For a moment, fear told him to run, to leave this place and save himself. But his feet did not move. He looked at the boy again, still weak but breathing better now. Then at the girl, standing in front of him like she was ready to protect him with her own life. Something inside Armin refused to walk away. The humming sound grew sharper, closer. A faint light appeared above the clouds, moving slowly, searching. Armin stepped closer to the girl, lowering his voice. We need to hide, he said. The girl shook her head quickly. They will find us, she replied. They always find us. Armin looked around, his mind racing. The broken metal from the crash site, the burned ground, the small hill behind them. There had to be something. Then suddenly, the teddy bear in his hand felt warm. Armin frowned, looking down at it. The toy was no longer cold and still. A faint glow appeared inside it, soft but clear. What is this? Armin said, surprised. The girl's eyes widened when she saw it. It's reacting. She whispered, to you. Armin looked confused. To me. Why? Before she could answer, the humming sound turned into a sharp mechanical noise. A beam of light cut through the sky and touched the ground not far from them. The earth shook slightly, dust rising into the air. They are here, the girl said, panic rising again. Armin quickly grabbed her arm, pulling her closer. Listen to me, he said firmly. We are not giving up. The girl looked at him, surprised by his tone. He had nothing. And still he spoke like he was ready to fight. Armin turned toward the broken metal pieces, his mind forming a quick plan. Help me move him, he said. Pointing at the boy, the girl nodded immediately. Together, they carefully lifted the weak child and moved him behind a large piece of fallen metal. It was not perfect, but it gave some cover. The sound above them grew louder. A shadow passed across the ground. Armin looked up and saw it clearly now, a dark flying machine, smooth and silent. With sharp edges and glowing lines, it hovered slowly. Scanning the area, Armin's heart began to pound hard in his chest. This was beyond anything he had ever faced. The girl crouched beside her brother, holding his hand tightly. "They will scan for life signs," she whispered. "We cannot run." Armin looked at the teddy bear again, still glowing faintly. Then, "We hide." "Better," he said. He quickly placed the teddy bear near the ground between them. The glow grew slightly stronger, spreading a soft light around them. The girl watched in surprise. "It's creating a field," she said quietly. "A small shield." "Hiding us." Armin did not fully understand, but he understood one thing. This toy was not just a toy. It was their only chance. "Stay close," he said. The girl nodded. Pulling her brother closer above them, the machine lowered slightly. A thin beam of light swept across the ground, moving slowly toward them. Armin held his breath, his body completely still. The light passed near them, then over them. For a second, it felt like time stopped again. Then the beam moved on. The machine hovered silently, as if unsure. Armin's heart was still racing. It had almost found them. The girl looked at him, her eyes wide with shock and hope. "It worked," she whispered. But before Armin could respond, the machine made a sharp sound. As if it had sensed something, it began to turn back toward them again, slower this time, more focused. "It knows," the girl said, fear returning instantly. Armin clenched his fists, his eyes locking onto the machine above. "We are not done yet," he said quietly. The soft glow of the teddy bear flickered slightly, as if struggling. The shield was not strong enough to last forever. The machine above prepared another scan, stronger than before. The ground beneath them trembled again. And in that moment, Armin realized something important. They could not just hide sooner or later. They would have to face what was coming. The machine above them let out a sharp rising sound, like it had finally locked onto something. The soft glow around the teddy bear flickered again, weaker this time. Armin's jaw tightened as he looked up at the dark shape hovering in the sky. "It's not going to miss again," he said quietly. The alien girl held her brother closer, her breathing fast and uneven. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice filled with fear. Armin did not answer. Immediately, his eyes moved quickly across the area, searching for anything that could help them. The broken metal, the burned ground, the small hill behind them. There was no easy escape, but staying still would only delay the end. The machine above suddenly fired another scanning beam, brighter and wider than before. It swept across the land, moving directly toward them. The teddy bear's glow tried to push back, but it shook, unstable. Armin knew they had only seconds. "Listen to me," he said quickly, turning to the girl. "When I tell you, you take your brother and run behind the hill." The girl shook her head immediately. "No, we stay together," she said, her voice weak but stubborn. Armin leaned closer, his tone firm. "If we stay here, we all die," she hesitated. Her eyes filled with conflict. "You trust me, right?" he added, softer this time. The girl looked at him for a moment, then slowly nodded. That trust hit him harder than anything else. Armin took a deep breath, then looked at the broken pieces of metal nearby. An idea formed in his mind, risky, but the only one he had. The beam of light moved closer, only a few steps away now. "Now," Armin said suddenly. The girl quickly lifted her brother, using all her strength, and ran toward the hill. At the same moment, Armin grabbed the teddy bear and sprinted in the opposite direction. The glow around it flared brighter as he moved. The scanning beam instantly followed him, locking onto the energy. "Come on," Armin muttered under his breath as he ran. His legs felt heavy, weak from hunger. But he forced them to move. Behind him, the machine shifted, its attention fully on him now. The ground shook as a small drone dropped from the larger craft, Landing with a hard metallic sound, it began moving fast, chasing him. Armin reached a pile of broken metal and quickly ducked behind it. Breathing hard, he looked down at the teddy bear. "So you are the reason they are here," he said quietly. The glow pulsed in response, like it was alive. The drone moved closer, scanning, searching. Armin picked up a sharp piece of metal from the ground. Gripping it tightly, he had no weapons, no strength, but he had no choice. The drone rounded the corner, its glowing eye fixed on him. For a moment, everything went silent. Then it moved fast. Armin reacted instantly, swinging the metal piece with all the strength he had left. It struck the drone's side, sending sparks into the air. The impact pushed him back, his arms shaking from the force. The drone adjusted quickly, turning toward him again. Armin stumbled, nearly falling but forced himself to stay up. "I am not done," he said through clenched teeth. The drone charged again, faster this time. Armin jumped aside at the last second, the machine crashing into the metal behind him. A loud crack echoed. Without wasting time, Armin grabbed another piece of debris and slammed it down onto the drone. Once, twice again, sparks flew the machine, twitching violently. Finally, it went still, its light fading out. Armin stepped back, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling fast. His body felt like it was about to collapse, but he was still standing above him. The larger machine shifted again. It had seen everything. The humming grew louder, angrier. Armin looked toward the hill, hoping the children had reached safety. Then suddenly, the girl's voice called out from a distance. "Armin?" He turned quickly, shocked. She was standing at the edge of the hill, her brother still in her arms. "You did not leave," he said, surprised. The girl shook her head, a small smile appearing. "Despite everything, we don't leave each other," she said. Something in Armin's chest softened at those words, even in fear, even in danger. She chose to stay. The large machine above began to lower, preparing something stronger, something final. The ground vibrated under their feet. Armin looked at the teddy bear again, its glow still alive but fading. "We cannot run anymore," he said. The girl stepped closer to him, her fear still there, but now mixed with courage. "Then we stand," she replied. Armin nodded slowly, for the first time in a long while. He was not thinking about hunger, not about survival, only about protecting them. The machine above aimed directly at them, a bright light forming at its center. Everything around them grew silent again. Armin stepped slightly in front of the children, holding the teddy bear tightly, his body weak, but his will strong. And in that moment, as the light grew brighter and danger closed in, the alien child smiled, not out of safety, but out of trust. The bright light from the machine grew stronger, filling the dark sky with a cold white glow. Armin stood in front of the two children, his body weak but unmoving. The teddy bear in his hand flickered softly, its glow struggling but still alive. The alien girl held her brother tightly, her small smile still there, even as danger closed in. For a moment, everything felt still, like the world was waiting for something to happen. Then suddenly, the teddy bear pulsed with light, stronger than before. Armin felt a warm energy spread through his hand, moving up his arm. "What is this?" he whispered, surprised. The girl stepped closer, her eyes wide with hope. "It's responding to you," she said softly. The light from the teddy bear grew brighter, pushing back against the machine's beam. The air around them shifted like an invisible shield forming once again. It was stronger. The machine above released its attack, a powerful wave of energy rushing toward them. Armin instinctively raised the teddy bear, holding it in front of him. The two forces met in the air with a silent clash. For a second, nothing moved. Then the shield expanded, pushing the attack away. The energy scattered into the sky like broken light. Armin stared in shock, his breath heavy. The girl smiled slightly, her fear fading. "You chose kindness," she said quietly. "That is why it listens to you." The machine above made a loud, distorted sound, as if it was confused or damaged. Its lights flickered, its movements becoming unstable. Armin took a step forward, still holding the glowing teddy bear. He did not feel like the same man anymore. A few moments ago, he was just a starving human trying to survive. Now, he was standing against something far beyond him, and he was not afraid. The machine tried to attack again, but the teddy bear's light flared brighter. A wave of energy pushed upward, striking the machine directly. The dark craft shook violently, sparks flashing across its surface. Then, slowly, it began to rise, pulling away. The humming sound grew weaker, fading into the distance, until finally, it was gone. The sky returned to silence. The cold wind softened, moving gently across the land once again. Armin lowered his arms slowly, the glow from the teddy bear fading back to normal. His legs trembled, and he nearly fell. But the girl quickly stepped forward to support him. "You are safe now," she said softly. Armin let out a long breath, his body finally relaxing. "We are safe," he repeated quietly. Behind them, the boy moved again, his breathing now steady. Stronger than before, the girl rushed to him, kneeling beside him with relief. "He is better," she said, tears of happiness filling her eyes. Armin watched them, a small, tired smile appearing on his face for the first time in days. The pain in his chest did not feel so heavy. A soft light appeared in the sky again. But this time it was different, gentle, calm, not threatening. Armin looked up, his eyes narrowing slightly. Another ship descended slowly, smooth and bright. The girl stood up, her face lighting up with recognition. "They came," she said happily. "Who?" Armin asked. "My people," she replied. The ship landed quietly, not far from them, and a few figures stepped out, tall and calm. They moved quickly toward the children, checking on the boy, speaking in a soft, unknown language. One of them turned toward Armin, their expression peaceful. They nodded slightly, as if showing respect. The girl walked back to Armin, holding the teddy bear gently. For a moment, she looked at it, then at him. "This belongs to you now," she said softly. Armin shook his head a little. "No." "It kept you safe," he replied. The girl smiled and placed it into his hands again. "It kept us safe because of you," she said. Armin looked at the teddy bear, then at the children. He understood now. It was never just about the toy. It was about the choice. The girl stepped back slowly, joining her people, her brother now awake. Holding her hand, before entering the ship, she turned one last time. "Thank you," she said, her voice full of warmth. Armin nodded quietly, unable to find words. The ship slowly lifted into the sky, its light fading into the distance. Soon the land was empty again, just Armin and the quiet wind. He looked down at the teddy bear in his hands. A small, simple thing, but it had changed everything. Armin walked slowly back toward his broken home, still hungry, still tired. But something inside him was different now, stronger. Because in a universe full of fear and survival, one hungry human had chosen kindness.